Okay, good morning. Once again, we are still continuing with our broader topic, human resource management. The last time we met, we were looking at labor disputes and then their settlement procedure. Today, we are going to look at another important subtopic in respect of human resource management. You know, at times when you guys have athletics, you hear those who are singing the Samamo, and some will be saying morale, morale. What is the meaning? And that is what we are looking at today. We are looking at morale. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to define morale. When we say morale, what is it? Know that the pronunciation is morale. It is not moral. M-O-R-A-L-E. Moral is M-O-R-A-L. What is it? Then we also look at the ways that if you are a manager, you'll be able to find out the extent of morale in the organization. In other words, whether morale is low or high. How do you find out? Even if it is high, to what extent is it high? Then we shall also look at the ways that a manager can improve upon the morale in an organization. So when you say morale, what is it? There is a direct relationship between motivation and morale. When workers are motivated, it results in high morale. We know what motivation is, we have done it. Now, what is the attitude of the workers towards the work situation, towards management, towards other employees, and so on and so forth? Are they happy to give up their best? Or they are not happy as a result of the way they see management actions? They are not happy probably as we learned about conditions of service. Management has not been implementing the collective agreement and therefore they are not happy. If workers are not happy in an organization, then morale will be low. If workers are happy, then morale will be high. So it is the duty of the manager to see to it that to put in place things that will make morale high. When there is low morale, a lot of things happen. There may be absenteeism. There may be lessened output. In other words, workers are not happy, so output will be low. There may be unnecessary discipline because workers are not doing whatever is expected of them. So today you are suspended, tomorrow this, and a whole lot of other things. So what is morale? The first thing we need to notice that morale is a collective term. When I say it's a collective term, that means we are looking at the collective attitude of the employees towards their work. You are looking at the collective attitude of employees towards other employees or their peers or colleagues. You are looking at the collective attitude of the employees towards management or their supervisors or their superiors. What is the attitude? How do they feel? How do they interpret the work situation? That is all that morale is about. And just as I indicated earlier, when morale is high, or morale can either be high or low. When it is high, then it is positive and it results in a lot of positive situations in the organization. For example, productivity can increase. There will also not be high labor turnover. High morale will lead to low morale or labor turnover. In other words, there is an inverse relationship. When I say inverse relationship, you know it. When we are talking about organization, we looked at inverse relationship. When we say two variables are inversely related, means as one is increasing, the other one will be decreasing. If they have direct relationship, then as one is increasing, the other one will also be increasing. So there is an inverse relationship between morale and labor turnover. When morale is high, there will be low labor turnover. People will not be ready to leave the workplace. They will stay and give off their best. So that is all that morale is about. It is about the relationship that exists between, or the collective attitude of the employees towards their work, management, and other colleagues, and it talks about as to whether they are happy or they are not happy, and both will have their own repercussions. Now, what are the ways to find out the extent of morale in an organization? I'm going to talk about 4. Number 1, if you want to find out whether workers are happy or not, one thing you can do is to have informal chat with them. We have done formal and informal communication. So when I talk about informal chat, you understand what is meant by having informal chat with them. Whatever engagement you have with them informally, their responses, their actions will enable you to know whether morale is high or low. So that is one way you can find out the extent of morale with your workers or employees. The second one is very simple, straightforward. You can have direct interview. So you can interview the workers as to how they feel about the organization, how they feel about certain policies, and there are a lot of other things. So you know what you want. So you ask the right questions, and their feedback or responses or replies will enable you to know whether morale is high or low. The third thing you can also do, which you are familiar with, is that you can also administer questionnaire. You know what questionnaire is. The university students have been coming to your class with their questionnaire. They administer the questionnaire. Then you respond to the questionnaire. So somebody, for example, wants to find out these students and boarders, the ones that have been doing well in respect of their academic work. So the person prepares questions and then put the questions on paper. The person gives those questions and then you respond to those questions. After that, the person will be able to know whether these students perform better than boarders or boarders perform better than these students. So if you're a manager in an organization and you also want to find out the extent of morale in the organization, you can also prepare questionnaire with the right questions, and then you'll be able to find out whether morale is high or low in the organization. The fourth thing you can do is also you can set up a grievance committee. So the committee can now investigate and find out the extent of morale in the organization. So these are the ways you can find out the extent of morale in the organization. If you're a manager, how do you improve upon the morale of your workers? How are you going to improve the morale of your workers? Very simple. Even if I don't tell you, you should know. You have done motivation and other topics, so you should be able to think and come out with a lot of things. One of the ways you can improve upon morale in the organization is by offering good welfare facilities. So we have done what welfare is. When you're looking at the functions of human resource, manager. So if you provide a good welfare facility, then morale will be high. Another way you can also improve upon morale has got to do with training. We have done training, so you know what training is all about. So what you can do is to organize training program for your workers. When you organize training program for the workers, they are able to do whatever, they acquire the right skills, they are able to do whatever is expected of them. If you're a worker and you have the right skills, you have the right knowledge, you have the right abilities and what have you, you can, you'll be happy with the work situation. You'll be satisfied, there'll be satisfaction. So that is another way you can also improve upon morale. Another way, when we are looking at compensation, you can also apply that one here. Another way you can also find out the morale of your employees is to also offer financial assistance, financial benefit. When you give them bonuses and what have you, they will be happy to give off their best. So offer of financial incentives, example, annual bonuses, then that will make the workers happy to give off their best, and other benefits. Another one is that we have done communication. So you see, I told you, you can apply the topics we have already done. So when you come to communication, how do you apply communication for morale will be high? When there is communication gap, what happens? When there is open communication, when you are operating the open door policy, what will be the implication? So when there is a good communication system put in place, then that one can also help to improve upon the morale of your workers. Then when there is a good human relationship, when there is a good human relation, when there is cordial relationship between the manager and then the subordinate, then that can also improve upon morale within the organization. So there are several ways. Then another way you can also improve upon morale is by instituting suggestion scheme in the organization. Now when you go to some organization, they have what we call suggestion post. You know, when we talk about communication, we look at suggestion box as a form of upward communication. So when employees are not happy about a certain policy, they can write and put that in the suggestion box. If you go for the suggestion and you implement it, they will be happy to give off their best. So institution of suggestion scheme can also make the employees happy and stay in the organization. So that is very, very important. Then another thing you can also do, and when you come to the suggestion scheme, what do you do? The suggestion scheme, what are the advantages? What are the advantages of using the suggestion scheme? What are the advantages? There was a year they asked them this question. Students were asked to talk about, it was a case question, it was case study, and one of the sub questions was that they were supposed to talk about, I think, 4 benefits of employees suggestion scheme. If you put down suggestion scheme, what will be the benefit? Number 1, when you put down suggestion scheme, it boosts the morale of your employees. So that is number 1. When you put down suggestion scheme, you see, we are talking about ways a manager can improve upon morale in an organization. Ways of improving morale in the organization. So if you do that, okay, so one of the benefits of instituting employee suggestion scheme is that it boosts the morale. And when you say it boosts morale, it means it makes morale high. So that is one. Number two, very simple, straightforward. We have done that one even earlier in one of our topics. When you institute employees suggestion scheme, it makes it possible for management to set realistic target and objective. Realistic target and objective. You see, it is a way of allowing the employees to participate in decision making. If you understand that concept, that employees suggestion scheme is one of the ways that you are allowing democracy to operate within the organization, then topics that we have done that are related to employees' participation in decision making can be applied. So it makes it possible for management to set realistic targets and objectives. And you know the reason, because the employees will also give their input. So if you are setting targets that are not achievable, then they will come in, they will also make their own suggestions. There are several ways you can do that, through consultation and a whole lot of other things. But here we are also saying when you put down employees suggestion scheme, that will also help them to also offer their or give their views in respect of that. Then the next thing is that when you put down employee suggestion scheme, it makes it possible for management to get feedback. You get reply on policies that the employees are not in line with. If there are policies that the employees do not like, if we have brought policies the employees do not like, then they can make suggestions. Through the suggestion scheme, you'll be able to have feedback on how they feel about management policies. Once you have instituted the suggestion scheme, if there is any policy that they do not like, they will make suggestions to that effect. Some of them will not write their names, but the name is not necessary. All that is necessary is that you know their views in respect of such policies, and then you can then do that. The next one, I talked to you about the relationship between motivation and then morale and whatever. When you put down a good suggestion scheme, the next thing has got to do with motivation. So we said it helps, it motivates employees to be creative. It motivates them. So the key word here is creativity and innovative. Now they are bringing their views. So you are making them think. It is not something, it is like centralization and decentralization. You know what decentralization does? When you are involving the subordinate in decision making. So once you put down employees suggestion scheme, then certainly you are motivating the employees to be creative. They are not always doing what somebody, an autocratic leader, is telling them to do. You are not always giving them instructions. They are not always following your instructions. They can also be creative. They can give out their own views in respect of anything. So it makes them creative. So that is that. So we have talked about ways you can improve upon morale in the organization. We have not finished with that, but I want you to know that one of the points was that you can institute employees suggestion scheme. Then we have talked about 4 benefits you can have when you institute employee suggestion scheme. Another way you can improve upon morale in the organization is to offer or give the employees, pay them in line with the government policies associated with payment, especially applying the minimum pay. The minimum pay. If the government says that if somebody is working, at least this is what must be paid to the person, don't pay less. When government increases wages and salaries, you have to also go alongside that. So when you implement the minimum wage, the current minimum wage, that will also help to improve upon the morale of your workers. If they are receiving less, then collectively they will not be happy. So that is another way you can also improve upon morale in the organization. You can also do that through what we call joint consultation, which is related to collective bargaining. The representatives of the employers and then that of employees meet. Now, it prepares the grounds for the collective bargaining. So issues that will be discussed during the joint consultation are those that will be carried into the collective bargaining. So when there is joint consultation, certainly you are not doing things unilaterally, then that will also help to improve upon morale in the organization. What brings low morale? What are the causes of low morale? Now remember, we have said that one of the ways you can improve upon morale is when there is good human relation. So certainly one of the ways morale will be low, one of the causes of low morale is that when there is poor human relation. So when there is poor human relation, then morale will be low. So that is that. Then lack of cooperation with the employees can also lead to poor or low morale. So that is also that. Then when there is also frequent occurrence of disciplinary actions. Today somebody had been suspended, tomorrow do this, and a whole lot of other you have been demoted. When all those negative tendencies are happening within the organization, then morale will be low. Then another one is when an unqualified person occupies a position, morale will be low in the organization. Remember, we are looking at morale as a collective term. So when somebody who does not qualify to occupy a certain position is made to occupy the position because of his relationship with the manager, then certainly other workers will not be happy. That is number one. Other workers will not be happy. If they are not happy, then it will be morale will be low. Number two, the person himself may not be able to perform the work, and so he also or she may also not be happy. So there are, you can talk about several ways you can make morale low or in. Then another, you can also even look at when you are using the autocratic leadership style, then that one too can lead to low morale. What will be the effect of low morale? We have already talked about that one in my introduction. So a lot of things will happen. There may be absenteeism, which I have already talked about. There may be high labor turnover, which I've also talked about. There may be low productivity, which I've talked about. There may be unnecessary over discipline of staff, which we have talked about. So that is that. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this morning's lesson. We look at morale, the meaning, the ways you can find out the extent of morale. Then we also look at ways that you can improve upon morale in the organization. Then we look at the causes of low morale and then the effects of low morale. Let's look at these questions. In 1994, question 9B, students were asked this question. It says, state and explain 5 things that a manager can do to raise the morale of his subordinates. So that was one question that was asked in respect of morale in 1994, and that was question 9B. So that is that. Now let's also look at this general question. This is not a question that was asked in any of the years, but you can look at that one. That is that define and show the importance of morale in business organization. So you define morale and then you look at how important morale is in the organization. The third question is discuss the main factors which contribute to morale of employees in an organization. So the main factors which contribute to morale. Now, if you look at what we have done so far, we look at the meaning. Is that what this question is talking about? We look at the extent of finding the ways of finding the extent of morale in the organization. Then we also look at the ways of improving morale in the organization. We look at the causes and then the effect. One of these subtopics, you need to use it to answer, or you need to use the points to answer this question. Factors that contribute to morale in the organization. Ladies and gentlemen, till we meet again another time to continue with our topic on human resource management. Good morning.